Welcome to the Living Centred podcast, a podcast all about learning together how to live lives which are centred on Jesus. Everyone lives centred on something. Our goal is to learn together how every area of our lives, everything about who we are and how we live, can be increasingly oriented around Jesus and transformed by Jesus. He invites us to a rich and satisfying life, where the good news that he truly is enough changes everything about how we relate to God, ourselves, and the world. In each episode, a different person shares about what it's looking like for them to seek to centre their life on Jesus right now. As we hear their stories, we get to learn together and to encourage one another in what it means for Jesus to be at the centre of our lives. This is a journey we are all invited to, and a conversation we all get to be a part of. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, my name's Adrian, and it is so good to welcome you to this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. And it's my privilege to introduce today Mel, who'll be sharing this week. Mel, it is very good to see you.
Hello, my friends.
You got it straight in there. I'm loving that. I wonder then if you could kind of address our friends who are listening and tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, and what your life looks like at this point in time.
Okay, so as Adrian said, my name's Mel. I live in Oldbury with my two daughters. I'm divorced, so I'm a single parent, and I have a full-time job. So working in accountants on the admin side of part of the management team.
Yeah.
So my hours are quite long sometimes, early starts, late finishes. But I've found they peak in those busy periods.
Yeah.
So I do have times when I can say it's normal hours, but it can be quite challenging trying to run a home, a family, and to work. Socially, I like to go with friends and family for meals, and in that I do try and do a bit of sport and play a bit of netball.
Amazing.
Which in my later years is challenging with injuries and things, but I'm trying to say to myself, as long as I can do it, I got to carry on because I've played since I was 18. So
wow,
it's a long time. So yes, I'm still trying to do that. Being part of Oasis now since about 2005, 2006.
Amazing.
So I just don't know where those years have gone, but yeah, that's how long I've been here. I haven't always been a Christian.
Yeah.
So I grew up my family home knowing that Sunday was a rest day, it was a Sabbath day. I kind of felt God was in my life, but I didn't think it was going to play a big part of my life at any point. Yeah. We grew up in those days with probably 3 channels on the TV. So we didn't have what we've got now with social media and everything. I was introduced to church and got a bit more deeply with friends at my senior school. So I was about 11 then. One of my best friends, she was a Christian, encouraged me to have a Bible. So I had my mum's Bible, actually, that she was given at her christening.
Okay.
She passed on to me. And I had it open at Psalm 23.
Wow.
For a long, long time, beside my bed. There would be occasions when I might say I did a little prayer, but not very often. It was, like I say, not something that I thought would play a big part for me. Time went on, went to church a bit when I was still at school. Didn't really get into it, so didn't continue that. And then my brother came to Oasis before me, came along to visit a couple of times. It was nice, went away, fine. Still nothing. Went to a friend's church in Wolverhampton a few times, quite like that. And then one day I thought, I need to investigate this a bit more. So I did come back to Oasis, and I was coming along quite regularly. And then one day it was just like, I just got saved. It was like,
wow,
God, here I am. Can you see me? My hands are in the air waving.
Wow.
So I'd never forget that day. And then I got baptised, and the rest is history, as they say.
Oh, it's amazing. That's such a great intro, Mel. Just a really good overview of like what your life looks like at this point in time. But also just this narrative, the story of just what has it meant then to find Jesus and how Jesus has then begun to just transform your life. It's just really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
I guess then jump in then to the big question, which is then, what does living centered on Jesus look like for you right now?
Right. So I think all these questions were a bit difficult for me because the journey changes. It's never the same.
It's good.
So I think I've grown over the years. I feel that I have more understanding of Jesus, of God, of the Holy Spirit than I did. So I have to look at myself and say, I think you've done all right, because when you're a single parent, you do everything yourself. There's nobody to help and take a role. You do it all. And sometimes you just need to ask for help sometimes, which is very, very difficult. So for me to be centred is getting easier because my children are older. I think everything I did was for my children. Every day, everything was focused around my children, making sure they were all right. I still went to work full time, no matter, from when they were really young. So now the challenge for me is to stay centred, which is what we're talking about here. So I find waking up quite early, which I won't tell you how early, and I do my Bible verses, because I find if I didn't, the day would run away with the busyness and I'd lose sight of that focus. So I try to do it early. I do some prayer. Also, give thanks really every day that God wakes me up to see another day. I just feel at the moment that there's a lot of people around me are not making it. Some of them are younger than me. Some of them are children of people I know. It's tough times really. And I think we've got to appreciate and give thanks, for what we have.
That's really good.
I'm not quite sure if I answered the question.
Oh, you
there.
really have, Mel. I think it's really helpful. I think it's helpful to just say, yep, it's just looked different at different stages of life. That it's an understanding that I'm on a journey of knowing and understanding more of who God is. And the good news is I'm understanding and knowing more now than I did. That's a good thing. I also think it's amazing just hearing your intentionality of just saying, yep, I just know if I don't get in there early, it's not going to happen. And so for me, what that means is I've just got to get up early and make sure I'm reading my Bible verses, I'm praying, that's how I'm starting my day. And then I just really love that throwaway you said of, yep, and also this moment where actually I'm just knowing sadness around me is what causes me to do is then live with a sense of, yep, there is sadness, but also a thankfulness for what I have rather than what I might not have, which is like massive. I think we can so often live thinking about what could be rather than what is. Really good. I guess my follow-up question would then be is there anything else that kind of helps you then in terms of staying centered on Jesus?
So I find it difficult to read the Bible. So in the mornings when I'm doing the verses, I listen to them, which I find really helpful. I've tried to carve a bit of time out. I would watch something, maybe something from the Bible Project, which I find quite good because they use pictures, animation to enlighten you of the stories in the Bible. So that's useful. I've watched something called The Chosen as well, which I find that amazing. I really enjoy that. I've watched most of the seasons and I think there's no harm in going back and watching things. And it helps me relate to the verses in the Bible, because it's the story of Jesus, isn't it, The Chosen? So quite like that. Books, I try to read books, but I find that hard as well. I think it's retaining it and then remembering it. I'm kind of struggling with that sometimes. But I do find that some prayers are quite relevant to me and to my heart, close to my heart, like Psalm 23 is always a good one for me. And just encouraging verses. I think there's one in Philippians, it says, focus on the good things, whatever's good, whatever is pure, keeping things positive. And I think it's really important for me to show that to those around me, because sometimes I think in my workplace or in my social groups, I don't have to always refer to God or Jesus, but they see it in me, if you like, by
really
my
good.
actions and, the way that I am, which I wouldn't have probably seen that 5-6 years ago, probably. So I feel quite encouraged by that.
It's really good.
Yeah, so I think that's it for me, is Bible verses I refer back to. And even when I feel under the weather or not really myself, or even grumpy, whatever it is, I have to think of positive things. And also in the Bible it says don't be anxious about things, in prayer and repetition, and you kind of get that peace from that. So those kind of things help me. That's
really good, Mel. Really good. And what I love about it is you saying, actually the Bible does really help me, but also I find reading hard. And then what you've done is then found ways around that. I love that, of just saying, well, what I do then is I listen to it.
Yeah.
And then what I find just provoking is then you listen to it and then it feels like you pray into it. And so then you're using these Bible verses to be things you pray. And then as you're praying them in, you're then saying, oh, now I want to live in these in order to reveal it to others.
That's right.
It's just really good. And I love the fact that you're also saying that you watch stuff to help you. The Bible Project videos are just great of just revealing both graphically and spoken words of just the wonder of what's being expressed through the Bible. But then the Chosen series is amazing at bringing to life things that sometimes we can just grow familiar with.
Yeah.
I think it's really good. And we'll put in the show notes some links to the Bible Project and the Chosen I think they're brilliant resources. But I think what just hits me is just the way you've said, there's this thing I found hard, but actually there's a way you found around it. And there's life that's come that's changing you, but also that then seeks to change others as they encounter you, which I think, it's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
I guess then my next question is what are you discovering then about who God is as Father, Son and Spirit at the moment?
Yeah. For me, when I became a Christian, I think I initially thought everything was going to be great.
Yeah.
Everything was going to be easy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think over time I've begun to accept that and find peace around the things that make me feel good.
Yeah.
It's a simple things really, just seeing your children happy or just feeling encouraged by other people, because I always thought I didn't really know about the Bible. I couldn't really encourage anybody. And I've just found lately that people do ask me for my advice.
Yeah.
And some encouragement or a prayer. And I find that that's amazing, because I looked at myself as somebody who didn't know anything. So I find that quite joyful. I find some joy in that. God knows me better than I know myself. That's a big thing. So I know that he's got grace for me when I mess up, or if I haven't prayed as much as I should have. And then one would say, well, how much should you pray? And I just think we're all different.
Yeah.
We are all different. I would rather pray meaningfully, not always for things that I want, but prayers of thanks, prayers for my family. And I just find that the little simple things do make me feel good. Like this morning, driving into church, I drove past Worley Woods, which is not my normal route. I came this morning and it was quite early. It was before 10, I think. And there were people snowboarding on the grass area of the woods because of the snow. And there wasn't just a few people. There was a lot of people. People out walking their dogs. And it just brought me joy to see that the snow, where we wake up and think, oh, no, it's snowing. Oh, I've got to dig the car out. Oh, this, oh, that. But then other people have said, I'm going to go out and enjoy it. And I thought, that's what it's about the creation of what God has brought to us, and how we can turn it into something joyful. It just made me feel really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like the snow and I don't like to snowboard, but it was joyful to watch. It really was.
It's just really good. I love how you've kind of painted a picture there of what you're discovering about God is you're finding God within the everyday of your life, that he brings peace as you see the good that he's doing in others in your life, of seeing how he's transformed you over time, that causes you then to think, oh, maybe I've got wisdom to add here. People are coming and asking me, oh, maybe God, you've been doing something in me, of knowing that reality that God knows you better than you know yourself. and he's way more gracious to you than maybe sometimes you would be.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a beautiful thing to see. And then that last thing of saying, and then realizing that I can just see the world differently.
That's right.
As I look out on creation, I get to see the creator, and there's a joy in that of seeing other people enjoying creation. Yeah, that's really good. I guess then my final question, which sometimes is the hardest one, people have said, but is, how then are you changing? If we were to have met you 3, 6, 12 months ago, how would you look different today to who you were then?
Yeah. So I think it is a difficult one, because I've got to dig deep and think, how am I different? And I think I've always been somebody who's always in a hurry. Always got something to do, somewhere to go, somewhere to be. Patience was never really at the top of my list.
Yeah.
I'd always struggle with it. So I think I'm getting better, trying to be patient. I'm trying to be patient with my family, which is really important. I've got a book actually by John Mark Comer called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Which has helped me in trying to stop and pause and just kind of focus on the important things. And that goes into my life today, whereas before I would normally try and cram everything in a weekend, 5, 6, 7 things to do, and I've had to say no, maybe I can only do 2 of those things. And then I've just felt so much better by being that way. And I'm hoping people around me can see that I'm not as hurried as I used to be. There's a bit of a calmness around me that wasn't there before. What I have noticed, some people, non-Christians around me, have said things like, at the weekend I saw a homeless man and I offered him something because I know that's what you would do. And I thought, wow, that's really good, because whilst I just talk about things, people are listening. Which sometimes you think they're not, but they are. So I thought that was really amazing to hear that. So I'm thinking that the changes are being reflected outward, which is good. And I think I am trying to come out of my comfort zone of just being in a little box on my own in church and outside of church. So I'm getting more involved and doing things like this.
Totally.
Which is massive for me. People who know me can be quite reserved and probably don't share a lot about myself. So like I say, this is quite a big thing for me. So that's stepping out. I'm trying to connect with people, which, again, people might see me in church and not really know me. So I'm trying to speak to people a lot more and arranging to see them outside of church. And just hoping that people see me for me. Because whilst we're all on journeys, we're never going to be perfect. No. We have to accept that we will mess up sometimes and just not to be hard on ourselves about that. So I think I've kind of getting there with that as well. So I'm hoping, like I say, that people looking in can see that in me. And I've got another book.
Nice.
So this is called Grace Looks Amazing on You by Amy Seffert. I think her name is Seffert. This is just 100 days of reflecting on God's love for us and how he has grace for us, which I think is really, really important. I'll just read a couple of things from the back of the cover. It says, grace looks like making time for a friend when your to-do list is pages long. So that goes back to stopping, pausing, and then thinking of others as well. And then grace looks like believing you are loved simply because God made you. So, and there's lots of encouraging things in there. And that does help me. And I have to say, I don't read these every day. It's just at times when I stop and try and pause. And then I might pick up a book and read something like that, or I'll go to the Bible Project and read a verse, or just a prayer.
Oh, it's really good, Mel. I just love it all. We'll make a note of those books and put them in the show notes so people can find them. But what gets me is just this way in which you've said, how I'm changing is, yes, I'm changing as an individual, but I hope that the outworkings of that are being felt by other people. And so as I'm enjoying more of God's grace, I want to show more of God's grace to other people. As I'm seeking to live slower more present, it causes me to be more patient with other people. And my hope is that as I'm living these ways, showing a different way of living, actually it rubs off on people and people are feeding back to me saying, oh, I did this because I know that's kind of what you would do. I think it's amazing. And knowing that you're not striving for perfection.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, I'm a work in progress. And we all need to hear that. We're a work in progress, which is just good news.
Yeah.
As always, thank you so much for sharing, Mel. I always get to this point, say the same thing, but I deeply mean it. And that is my heart is well and truly full. I love having these conversations and just you get this window in. And as you said, this isn't something that you would have rushed to do. This is you stepping outside your comfort zone. And I'm deeply grateful for you doing that because I know it will help so many people. I think in all the wonder and beauty of what you've shared, the thing I'm going to consider more is something you said early on, actually, of just that sense of just being grateful for what you have rather than what could be.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that I just want to live this coming week of just saying, yeah, God, I just want to be grateful for what I have, for the fact I've woken.
That's right, yeah.
For the fact that I've got this life around me, that I have these relationships, my health, all these different things, and just be thankful. Yeah, so that's going to be me. How about you, my listening friends? What are you going to be considering out of the beauty and wonder of all that Mel has shared? And lastly, I just want to thank you, each and every one of you, for listening. I want to pray for us. I pray we would know more of the wonder of living centered on Jesus this coming week. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Living Centred podcast. New episodes are released every Monday, and if you enjoyed this episode, please do like and subscribe on your chosen podcast provider to receive them direct each week. Living Centred is produced by the team at Oasis Church in Birmingham, UK, and you can find out more and get in touch with the team via theoasischurch.com.